I sang 4 songs to my best friend while she died. The last one she asked for herself. When I was 9, my mom collapsed in the kitchen and I sang her the ABCs while we waited for the ambulance because I didn't know what else to do. She lived, but something locked into place in my brain that day. Whenever someone around me is scared or hurting, I sing. Not on purpose. Not because I think it helps. It just comes out of me like breathing. A kid fell off the monkey bars in 4th grade and broke his arm, and I started singing Twinkle Twinkle Little Star while the teacher called the nurse. Everyone stared at me like I was insane. In middle school, my friend Britt had a seizure during lunch, and while everyone was screaming, I knelt next to her and sang, "You are my sunshine," until the paramedics came. The counselor called my mom and said, "Your daughter has an unusual stress response." My mom said, "I know. She's been like this since she was 9. By high school, it was a problem." My boyfriend Arlo had a panic attack in his car, and I started singing Can't Help Falling in Love, and he told me to get out. He said I was mocking him. I wasn't. I literally could not stop. He broke up with me the next day and told everyone I was unhinged. My best friend Sable was the only person who never flinched. We met freshman year when she sat next to me in biology, and I was humming during a dissection because the formaldehyde was making me anxious. She leaned over and said, "Nice pitch. Want to be friends?" Sable thought my singing was hilarious. She'd fake being scared just to see what song would come out. One time she pretended to choke on a grape, and I started singing Bohemian Rhapsody, and she laughed so hard she actually did start choking. She was the only person who made me feel like the weird broken part of me was worth keeping. Junior year, Sable got diagnosed, leukemia. She started chemo 2 weeks later, and I drove her to every appointment. The first session she was shaking in the passenger seat, staring at the hospital like it was a prison. My mouth opened, and I started singing Dancing Queen. She looked at me with tears running down her face and said, "ABBA? Really? That's what my brain picks right now?" But she was laughing. During her second round, she lost her hair. She called me crying at 2 a.m. I came over and sat on her bathroom floor surrounded by her hair and sang Bald-Headed Woman by the Kinks, and she threw a hairbrush at my head and laughed until she couldn't breathe. When she was in the hospital for 11 days with an infection, I sat next to her bed and sang everything I knew. Beatles, Fleetwood Mac, Dolly Parton, Disney songs, stuff I didn't even know I remembered. A nurse told me most people just sit there and don't know what to say. I said I don't know what to say either. This is just what comes out. October. Sable got worse. Her mom called me on a Tuesday and said you should come now. I drove doing 90 and walked into her room, and she was so small in that bed with tubes everywhere, and her mom crying in the corner and the monitors beeping slower than they should. I sat down and took her hand, and my throat closed up. For the first time in my life, nothing came out. No song, no melody, nothing. The one time it mattered most, and my voice just disappeared. Sable opened her eyes and whispered, "Why'd you stop?" "I can't." She squeezed my hand. "Please." I opened my mouth and it cracked, but I started singing You Are My Sunshine, the same song I sang for Britt in middle school, but this time I meant every word. She closed her eyes and smiled. Her mom was sobbing. The nurses stood in the hallway. I sang the whole thing twice, and somewhere in the second round, her hand went slack, and the monitor flatlined, and I kept singing because I didn't know how to stop. Sable's mom asked me to sing at the funeral. I stood in front of 200 people and opened my mouth, and for the second time, nothing came out. I just stood there. Then Sable's little sister, she was 11, walked up to the microphone, took my hand, and started singing You Are My Sunshine. I joined in on the second line. After the funeral, her mom hugged me and said, "Sable told me something in her last week. She said the singing was the only thing that made the scary parts feel less scary. She said you were the only person who never treated her like she was dying. You just sang like everything was going to be okay, and that was enough."